I want you to vividly recall the last time you denied yourself a genuine experience. Maybe it was a weekend trip with college friends you haven't seen in years. Maybe it was simply upgrading to the good seats at a concert or taking a sabbatical. To write that book, you looked at the price tag, felt a distinct pang of guilt, a physical tightness in your chest, and told yourself, no, I need to be responsible. I'll do it later. We are culturally brainwashed to believe that deprivation is the ultimate virtue. From the time we are children, we are fed the fable of the ant and the grasshopper. We are told the ant, who saves every crumb and never looks up from the dirt, is the hero. The grasshopper, who dares to enjoy the summer sun, is the villain who deserves to freeze. We internalize this. We convince ourselves that life is essentially a waiting room. We grind, we scrimp, and we delay gratification, operating under the dangerous assumption that the future you will be better equipped to enjoy this money than the present you. We treat our bank accounts like a high score in a video game, getting a dopamine hit every time the number goes up, while our actual lives remain flat. But here is the brutal truth that financial gurus are terrified to tell you. Someday is a biological lie. Most of us are sleepwalking into a tragedy. We are working jobs we tolerate to save money for a version of ourselves that might not even exist. And if that version does exist, say, you make it to 85 with $1 million in the bank, you haven't succeeded. You have failed. I want you to really sit with that. If you die with $1 million in the bank, you didn't win the game of capitalism. You lost the game of life. That money isn't just paper. It represents thousands of hours of stress, early mornings, missed birthdays, declined invitations, and skipped vacations. It is life energy that you sold to an employer but never bought back. You essentially worked those years for free. Today we are breaking down a book that completely shattered my view of wealth. It's called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. This isn't just another budgeting guide. It is a philosophy that attacks the very foundation of how we view safety. It is going to make you angry. It's going to make you anxious. And if you listen to the end, it might just save your life before it's too late. Big Idea 1. The Utility Curve. Why being rich at 80 is worthless. Let's start with the math of satisfaction. Most personal finance books are obsessed with accumulation. They teach you how to grow the pile. They ignore the most critical variable in the equation, your body. Perkins introduces a concept that economists know well, but regular people ignore: the utility curve. Money has diminishing returns, not just because you have more of it, but because your ability to convert money into enjoyment declines as you age. Imagine you are an alien observing a human named Steve. Steve works 60 hours a week in his 20s, 30s, and 40s. He skips lunch to save $15. He drives a car he hates. He stresses about the S&P 500 every night. He does this for 45 years. Then, at age 65, Steve retires with $2 million. He finally feels safe. But then the biological reality hits. At 70, Steve's knees give out. At 75, his energy levels tank. At 80, he has $8 million still in the account, but he spends his days sitting in a recliner because walking through an airport is too painful. To the alien, Steve is insane. Steve spent his prime years, his highest energy years, locking himself in a cage, only to be released when he was too tired to run. Perkins calls this surplus capital. It's money you earned, but never got to convert into joy. Here is the concept I want you to lock onto. Net worth is not the goal. Net fulfillment is. You need to view money strictly as fuel. A car with a full tank of gas sitting in the driveway forever is useless. The value of the gas is only realized when you burn it to go somewhere. If you die with a full tank, you wasted the trip. Now, I know the counter-argument screaming in your head, but I need to save for the future. I don't want to be destitute. We are going to get to the math of safety because it's important. But first, you have to accept the premise. Every dollar left in your account when you die is a dollar you worked for but didn't enjoy. It is wasted life energy. Big idea 2. Memory dividends, the compound interest of experience. This is the most beautiful concept in the book, and it's the economic justification for spending money now. We all understand financial dividends. You buy a stock, it pays you cash quarterly. Perkins argues that experiences pay memory dividends. Let's say you are 25 years old. You and your friends are broke, but you scrape together $1,000 each to go backpacking in Europe. You stay in terrible hostels. You eat cheap bread. You get lost in Rome. It's chaotic. That trip lasts 2 weeks, but the memory of that trip, that pays you every single year for the rest of your life. Every time you have a beer with those friends, you retell the story. Remember that time in Rome? You laugh. You feel connected. Every time you see a picture of the Colosseum, you smile. You are collecting emotional dividends on that experience for 50 or 60 years. The earlier you have the experience, the longer the tail of the dividend. Now, flip it. Imagine you wait until you're 60 to take that trip. You have way more money. You stay in a 5-star hotel. You eat at Michelin-star restaurants. It's nicer, but the texture is different. You aren't struggling, so you aren't bonding as deeply. And more importantly, you only have 20 years left to remember. The return on investment, ROI, for the memory is significantly lower because the timeline is shorter. This is why Perkins argues that spending money on experiences in your 20s and 30s isn't irresponsible. It's actually mathematically superior to saving that money, provided your basics are covered. You are building the resume of your life. When you are 90 and sitting in a rocking chair, you won't be reviewing your bank statements. You will be reviewing the movie of your life. If you didn't spend the money to shoot the scenes, the movie is going to be boring. Big idea 3. Time. Buckets, the biological window. This is where the book gets a little dark, but it's a necessary darkness. We tend to visualize our lives as a flat, linear line. We think, I can go skiing next year, or I can climb Kilimanjaro when I retire. Perkins destroys this thinking with time buckets. Imagine your life is divided into 5-year buckets. Ages: 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35, and so on. Here is the reality. Some experiences only fit into specific buckets. You cannot go clubbing in Ibiza until 4 a.m. when you are 70. I mean, physically you can, but it's going to be a miserable experience. You cannot ski black diamonds when your knees are shot. You cannot read Harry Potter to your kids for this first time when they are 25. That bucket is closed. It is sealed forever. Money is liquid. It can transfer between buckets. You can save money from your 20s and spend it in your 60s. But you cannot transfer health, and you cannot transfer time. Perkins argues that we need to match our spending to our biological capacity. He breaks life into 3 distinct phases. 1. The go-go years. High health, lower money. This is when you should be aggressive with active experiences. Travel, sports, festivals. 2. The slow-go years. Health starts to decline. Money is usually higher. You shift to more comfortable, less physically demanding experiences. 3. The no-go years. High money, low health. Spending money here is actually very difficult. This is the consumption smoothing problem. Most people starve themselves in the go-go years to feast in the no-go years. But when they get to the no-go years, they have no appetite. I saw this with my own grandfather. He was a Depression-era kid. He saved everything. By the time he had enough to travel the world, he didn't want to. He was tired. He just wanted to sit in his chair. He died with a massive surplus, but his life experience account was practically empty. Don't let your net worth graph go up while your health graph goes down, only to meet at the end when it's too late to use either. Big idea 4. The peak, the fear of zero. Okay, so when do you stop saving and start spending? This is the hardest psychological hurdle. Perkins suggests that your net worth should peak ideally between the ages of 45 and 60. Wait, let that sink in. Most financial advisors tell you your net worth should peak the day you die. Perkins says no. If your net worth keeps going up until you are 80, you did it wrong. You should hit a peak, let's say at 55, and then intentionally start driving that number down. You should be decumulating. You should be selling assets. You should be eating into the principal. Why? Because you are trying to land the plane. Imagine a pilot who flies a plane but refuses to descend because they want to keep as much altitude, safety, as possible. They stay at 30,000 feet until they are directly over the airport. To land, they have to nosedive. That's a crash. A good landing is a gradual descent. You lower your altitude, your net worth, as you approach the destination, F. Ideally, you touch the ground, $0, the moment the engine stops. Now, obviously, you don't know exactly when you will die. That's the unknown date. Risk. This is the biggest fear people have. What if I live to 110 and I'm broke? Perkins suggests using longevity annuities. Basically, insurance for living too long. You pay a lump sum now, and if you live past 85, it pays you a monthly income until you die. This secures your survival money, allowing you to guilt-free spend your enjoyment money. Big idea 5. Give while you are alive, the inheritance fallacy. But, wait, I hear you screaming. What about the kids? I want to leave a legacy. This is where Perkins gets controversial, and honestly, where he makes his strongest point. If you wait until you die to give your kids money, you are giving it to them too late. Think about the math. If you live to be 85, which is likely, your children will be roughly 55 or 60. What does a 60-year-old need an inheritance for? They are already thinking about their own retirement. The mortgage is probably paid off. The kids are out of the house. The money has low marginal utility for them. It just gets thrown onto their pile. When did they need the money? They needed it at 28. They needed it when they were drowning in student loans, trying to buy their first house, or struggling to pay for daycare. Perkins argues you should give your inheritance before you die. He calls it the die with zero approach to parenting. Why keep the money hostage until you take your last breath? Give it to them when it can actually change the trajectory of their lives. Seeing your child buy a home because of your gift is infinitely more rewarding than them receiving a check from a lawyer after your funeral. You get to see the joy. That is a memory dividend for you. You get to be the hero while you are still alive to hear the thank you. The bridge. Now, I want to pause and talk to the person inside you who is panicking right now. I know what is happening in your brain, because it happened in mine. The logic of die with zero makes perfect mathematical sense, but your emotion is fighting it tooth and nail. You feel a physical tightness in your chest, the fear, the but what if scenarios, but safety, but security. It is incredibly hard to rewire your brain from save, save, save to spend, live, enjoy. We are fighting against millions of years of evolution. Our ancestors survived the winter because they were paranoid hoarders. We are genetically wired to accumulate resources. Overcoming that psychological barrier, the deep-seated fear that spending money on yourself makes you irresponsible or reckless, is a massive internal battle. It is not a math problem. It is a therapy problem. It's actually something I struggled with so much that I spent the last year documenting my own process of unlearning scarcity. If you find this concept of shifting from a saver to an experiencer difficult to master, I actually wrote my own audiobook series specifically on this. It dives deep into the psychology of spending without guilt and building a richness that isn't just a number on a screen. You can find the link in the description below. It's the guide I wish I had 5 years ago. Last words and action plan. So where do we go from here? How do we apply this without ruining our lives? I want to offer a crucial nuance before we get to the steps. Bill Perkins is a hedge fund manager. He is extremely wealthy. For him, running out of money means he has to sell his second boat. For us, running out of money is a catastrophe. So, I do not want you to take die with zero, literally, as spend every penny recklessly and hope you die on Tuesday. Instead, I want you to interpret die with zero as don't overinsure against a life you won't live. Don't save $2 million. If $1 million guarantees your safety, that extra million isn't extra safety. It is wasted life hours. It is time you spent in an office that you could have spent with your children. Here is your 3-step action plan to start applying this today. Step 1. Confront your deadline. Go to an actuary table or use a life expectancy calculator online. Be realistic. Look at your family history. Get a number. Maybe it's 82. Maybe it's 88. Now put that date on a physical calendar. It looks scary, but it makes the timeline real. You do not have infinite time. You have a deadline. This forces you to stop saying someday and start saying when. Step 2. Create memory buckets, not just savings buckets. Sit down this weekend and draw a timeline of your remaining years. Divide them into 5-year chunks. Write down the specific experiences you want to have in each chunk, matching the activity to your likely health. 40 to 45. Ski trip to Japan. High energy. 50 to 55. Safari. Medium energy. 75 to 80. Rent a large villa for the grandkids. Low energy. Stop just saving for retirement. Save for the Japan trip. Give every dollar a mission. Step 3. The Now Fund Exposure Therapy. This is the most important step. Open a separate savings account today. Call it the Memory Fund. Put $50, $100, or $500 a month in it. The rule: you must spend this money within 12 months. You are not allowed to invest it. You are not allowed to use it for emergencies. It is use-it- or lose-it money for experiences. This is exposure therapy for your wallet. You need to train your brain that it is safe to spend money on joy. Listen to me closely. Life is not a rehearsal. There is no prize for being the richest person in the graveyard. The nurse at the nursing home isn't going to be impressed by your IRA balance. The goal is to arrive at the end of your life, look back, and say, I used it all. I squeezed every drop of joy, generosity, and excitement out of every dollar I earned. That is how you win the game. Thanks for watching. If this video made you rethink your savings, hit that like button. And tell me in the comments, what is one thing you've been putting off that you are going to do this year? I'll see you in the next one.